Hello, YouTube. Today I thought I would do something a little different. I thought I would talk about my favorite movies from one of my favorite movie directors, Christopher Nolan. So I will be talking about my favorite movies, um, that he's done. And these aren't in, like any particular order or anything like that. So if I say, oh, like number one or number two or, or whatever, um, it doesn't, that doesn't necessarily mean, that two is better than one. That just means, um, it just means that that's the next one on the list. So yeah, so these aren't in, these aren't in, any particular order or, anything like that. So yeah, let's get started. First up, we have Batman Begins. Um, you know, I don't think it's really um, I don't think it's really a competition as far as people's favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I think, when people think Christopher Nolan, they obviously think, the Dark Knight trilogy because, the trilogy, was just, so beloved. And honestly, yeah, I can't really blame them because, um, I remember when this movie was coming out. Um, I remember when this movie was coming out. I was a kid when this came out, and there was a lot of there was a lot of hype, but there was also a lot of doubt because obviously, this was the first Batman movie since Batman and Robin. So, you know, um, obviously, Michael Keaton's take was, or Tim Burton's, Batman was, was like dark and serious, and then Warner Brothers obviously, got involved and made, um, and they wanted, Schumacher to go with, like like a little bit more of like an Adam West, campy, sort of like, campy, stupid kind of, kind of thing. So yeah, so there was a lot of doubt. Um, people were actually laughing when they said, um, people were actually laughing, when Christopher Nolan, um, or when Christian Bale said, he's like, oh, I'm doing Batman, and obviously, like I said before, this was the first Batman movie since the Joel Schumacher movies at the time. Um, and Christian Bale was obviously trying to reassure everybody. He's like, yeah, no, that's not what we're doing. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be it's gonna be dark. It's gonna be serious. It's not gonna we're gonna take it. We're gonna take it seriously. Um, and yeah, and I remember when this came out. Like I said, I was a kid at the time. Wizard magazine was still a thing. Um, Wizard magazine was still a thing at the time, and Wizard magazine, was hyping this up. Like there were, like like kind of like entire articles on on Batman Begins, on the upcoming movie at the time. And obviously, like when it came out, like it won an Oscar. I mean, Roger Ebert, um, Roger Ebert, Roger Ebert and I forget the other guy's name. I forget the other guy's name that he was with, but or his partner or whatever. Um, but yeah, they both loved it, and see, I mean, and it was it was considered one of the best films of the year. Um, and for myself, um, and for people like myself who just who really really love origin stories, um, and and how and specifically like the origin of like the heroes and stuff. um Batman Begins did definitely did not disappoint in that, um in that regard. Um I remember actually Christopher Nolan saying that he doesn't. um I remember Nolan actually saying that he didn't remember the the last time that Batman's like full origin was told in in a movie. Um, so he really wanted to do like the full like the full origin story. Like to go back to the beginning. Um, you know uh, like to go back to the beginning of like where Batman, like how Batman started, how he, like what drives him to become Batman, what were, what, what are the things that make, that make Batman who he is. And Nolan definitely did not. I mean, like he really knew what he was doing. I mean, like he did read The Long Halloween, because obviously Batman: The Long Halloween was a huge influence on the Dark Knight trilogy. um and he just he really did his homework, and this is definitely, um this is definitely one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. Like um this is definitely one of the best ones that he's done, and I have seen it many times. Um, okay, so next, The Dark Knight. This this is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. Everything from everything from from the writing to the directing to to the performances. I mean, you have friggin' um you had friggin' Heath Ledger win, an Oscar for his performance as the Joker, and and rightly so. I mean, I and rightly so. I mean, his performance as the Joker. I mean, and I mean, his performance as the Joker. I know some people will say that Jack Nicholson is still their favorite Joker, and I can understand why, because Jack Nicholson is fantastic. He really stayed true to classic Joker. Um, like that classic Joker from from the comic books, from way back when. um, but yeah, Heath Ledger's Joker, Heath Ledger took it, to a whole new level. His Joker was, um, his Joker, was a lot more sick. It was a lot more, um, his Joker fully embraced, um, like like the chaos and the madness and just like the absolute monster that the Joker is. um Heath Ledger um Heath Ledger, and I was also a kid when The Dark Knight came out. And I remember hearing that Heath Ledger was cast. And at the time, I had never seen Heath Ledger in anything, so I wasn't familiar with him, as an actor at the time. Um, so when I heard, that Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker, I was like, okay, I've been because like I said, uh, I didn't, I had never seen anything of his before, so I didn't really, like have an opinion on it. Um, and then, of course, and um, not caca. Um, I remember, uh, I was actually lucky enough. I was actually lucky enough to see this in theaters. I went to the midnight showing with my dad. I've never seen my dad, um, more hyped for a movie than he was for this. Um, and he said to me, "You know what? We need to go to the midnight showing, because this is going to be, because this is going to be something to remember." Um, and I will never forget. Um, I just, I really, 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 really wish I could go back in time and relive that day, because it was truly just, the best audience that I've ever seen in a movie. I've never seen, um, so many people so excited for a movie. And just, like everybody was freaking out at all the right moments. Um, myself included. Um, and just, and, like the scene where the Joker crashes, Harvey Dent's party, that Bruce Wayne is holding for him, and then, um, and then when Batman, comes out of nowhere and says, then you're gonna love me, and everybody was freaking out. Like everybody just lost their shit at that moment, and everybody was just laughing and applauding, and literally, like it was just literally the best friggin' audience I've ever seen for a movie. And I really, really, and again, and I really, 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 really wish I could go back and relive that day, because it was truly, you know it was truly just, something very, very, very special. um but yeah, no, The Dark Knight. um yeah, so many people just hold, The Dark Knight, um as, like, not just one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, but also one of the greatest movies ever made, period. And it's um and it's understandable why, because the movie is just so incredible. I mean, Christopher Nolan truly outdid himself, um with The Dark Knight. His brother too, Jonathan, his brother too, Jonathan, um, who was also involved in these movies, um, and both of them are just so incredibly talented. Um, and But my um the thing that I was really, really shocked over um was remember was remember Two Face, although he plays a small role, unfortunately, in The Dark Knight. Um, Two-Face was, something that I was very, very excited for at the time because, um, because obviously the only other Two-Face that we had was Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever, and that was not great, unfortunately, thanks to Warner Brothers. Um, but yeah, no, when I first saw that scene, when Harvey Dent is, he's lying in the hospital talking to, he's in the hospital bed, talking to Gordon. Um, and you see him, and he doesn't have his bandages on anymore. So the first time, you see him turn over, and you see that he's Two-Face now. I I was completely in awe. Um, in that, the first time I saw that, I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's Two-Face. That's what he should look like. This is, Aaron Eckhart's performance as Two-Face. And I'm a huge, huge, huge Two-Face fan. So, um, so to see, an actor, like Aaron Eckhart, portray, um, a character that that I love so much in such a way where you can be like, yes, this is how Two-Face should act. This is how Two-Face should be. Um, it's just, I mean, it's something so spectacular and so incredible. Um, and it's truly just something that, um, and it's something that I wanted for a long, long time. Like when I heard that Two-Face was going to be in it, I was like, oh, this is going to be incredible. This is going to be, um, this is, yeah, I mean, The Dark Knight, I mean, like what more needs to be said? I mean, a masterpiece in every way, shape, and form. I mean, and a movie that just, a movie that, I mean, this is a movie that you'll just want to watch again and again, and it's so incredible, and it's such a masterpiece. Yeah, and in every shape of the word, everything down from the acting to the writing to the directing to to the pacing to it just I would literally go as far as to call this a perfect movie. I really, really, really would. I mean, it and it's um and Christopher Nolan just completely outdid himself. He really, really knew what he was doing. Um, he really, really knew what he was doing. All right. Next, we have, obviously, The Dark Knight Rises. Um, obviously, the conclusion to the Dark Knight trilogy. Not as good as the first two, however, still a very, very, very satisfying conclusion. Um, the biggest surprise to me when I heard that Anne Hathaway was going to be Catwoman, I was like, wait, what? Um, but yeah, no, she was actually the biggest surprise of this, um, of this movie. She ended up being absolutely fantastic. Um, she ended up being absolutely fantastic. In fact, probably my favorite, um, probably my favorite interpretation of Catwoman until Zoe Kravitz came along. Um, but yeah, no, she was, she was, she ended up being the biggest surprise about this movie. And when I heard that Bane was going to be in it, um, when I heard that Bane was going to be in it, um, when I heard that Bane was going to be in it, I was like, okay, um, this is going to be, and I'm a huge fan of Bane. I have been since I was a kid. And um and when I heard that Bane was going to be in it, and when I heard that Bane was going to be in it, I was like, okay, this is going to be um this is going to be something special. This is going to be um this is going to be something very, very special. And Bane was also another villain that I wanted to see, um, for a long, long time, because, the as much as I hate to bring this up, the only Bane that we had was the stupid ass Bane in Batman Forever. I'm sorry, not Batman Forever. Batman and Robin. Um, where he's just, like this mindless, thug. And that's not Bane. Bane is actually a hell of a lot smarter than he looks. You wouldn't expect um a guy Bane's size to be as smart and intelligent as he is. um and just yeah, no, Tom Hardy as Bane. Tom Hardy. And I mean, I friggin' love Tom Hardy. I mean, Tom Hardy to me is one of the best actors in Hollywood today. I mean, um he just he completely nails everything. He completely nails every role that he that he does. I mean, he was awesome as Mad Max. He was awesome as Bane. I love him as Venom. um yeah, just, I mean, absolutely, just, absolutely incredible. And I actually remember hearing that um after the death of Heath Ledger, um they weren't they weren't they weren't entirely sure whether or not, um whether or not a third Dark Knight movie was going to happen. Because, like, um I remember hearing that, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, I think Gary Oldman actually said at one point that he wasn't sure he wanted to do another one. Obviously, but the biggest thing obviously ended up being the death of Heath Ledger, because he was supposed to play, originally he was supposed to play a major role in Dark Knight Rises. Um, and obviously, after he died, that definitely put, a nail in things. Um, but but ultimately it ended up being that, yeah, we did obviously end up getting one more movie. Um, And it's a very very satisfying um, conclusion to the story. You have you have elements of Batman Nightfall in here. You have elements of The Dark Knight Returns. Um, um, and just, yeah, I mean, this is, um, as far as I'm concerned, I think, when people think Christopher Nolan, they think, the Dark Knight trilogy. They think, the greatest Batman, trilogy of movies, ever to be made. And it's understandable because, um, it's understandable because, Christopher Nolan, um, because, Christopher Nolan took, um, because it's understandable because Christopher Nolan took um one of the most beloved comic book characters of all time and made and made what so many people to and made what so many people consider to be the best line of Batman movies like ever to be made. um so yeah, this is Dark Knight Rises. Obviously, while not as good as Batman Begins and Dark Knight, still very very still very very good, and still very very um and still very very much worth still very very much putting on the list as as one of his best movies. um next we have Next, we have Interstellar. God, I love this movie. This movie, um, I love this movie so much. This is definitely one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. Um, so um, this movie can actually be, this movie, this movie much like, uh, The Dark Knight, is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. In every sense of the word, from the writing to the to the acting to the um, just down to everything. It's just I this was another movie that Christopher Nolan just really outdid himself in. Um, so this movie, um, the earth is dying, and they basically need to get um they ba- they basically need to get everybody off the earth. um they basically need to get everybody off earth and find they need to find a new planet to live on, because the earth is basically no longer because Earth is basically no longer safe to live on. Um, so 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 Matthew McConaughey plays a father of two named Cooper, and he he needs yeah, this movie is also very, 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 very heartbreaking because because here you have a father who basically needs to leave his family behind because he's tasked with the mission, um, to go into space and basically, find um a new planet for for them all to live on. um and while he's away, um one of the incredible things about this movie is its incredible realistic um is its incredible realistic time frame, once he goes, into space. um so they so like at one point in the movie they go through a black hole, and he and they go through a black hole, and he loses 2 decades, um he loses 2 decades with with his family because he's been gone for so long. And um because he's been gone for so long. And so when he gets back, from when he gets back with the when he gets back from the black hole back to back to the spaceship, he realizes he realizes that he's lost um like 23 years with his family, um because he's away. He needs to go find a new planet for them all to live on. So he's basically he basically missed um his entire kids lives. He missed them. um he basically missed their entire time. Um so the next time, like he's on this ship and he's watching all these messages that his kids have left him, and he's basically watched um he watched um he's seeing his kids now, and they're all grown up. Like his son got married and had a family. He's telling him about how his son is telling him about how like all these things about his life that he missed because he's away. Because he's been away for so long. And um but yeah, no, it's such an incredible movie. um it can be confusing because of between the time travel, um and then just the space time frame, and stuff like that. Science is very, 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 very realistic in this movie. um but however, it's a masterpiece in every sense of the word. And it's it's it, it it's just it's heartbreaking, and it's beautiful, and um it's definitely one of my favorite friggin' Christopher Nolan movies, like, ever. I would literally put this up there. I would literally put this right up there with the Dark Knight trilogy. It's that good. Um, but anyway, and then we have one of Christopher Nolan's earliest movies, and very much a masterpiece as well. And this one can also be very, 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 very confusing. In fact, this one I would say is a little. This one I'd say is more confusing than Interstellar, and that is Memento. This movie, um, this movie pulls basically a Pulp Fiction, and what I mean by that is, much like Pulp Fiction, the events that happen in this movie all take place out of order. And now that, however, that is very fitting for this movie because um, Leonard, the main character, has a memory. He has he suffers from he suffers from a rare brain disorder, um, and that is he isn't able to make new memories. So which is why um, which is why he um, so like when he meets someone and when he goes to meet them again, um and then when he sees them again, he doesn't remember ever meeting them. He doesn't remember ever meeting them because his memory is just so bad, and he lacks that. It's part of it's part of his disorder in his memory loss. So um, that's why he takes pictures, of the people that he meets, and then he has like tattoos all over himself. The premise of the movie is he's trying to find the person who murdered his wife, um, and um, he's trying to find the person who murdered his wife, and because of his uh, disorder, and in his bad memory, he'll he'll write stuff down, or he'll make tattoos of like clues and stuff like that that he that he obtains throughout the movie. Um, and this movie literally keeps you guessing the entire time. um and it keeps you guessing the entire time, and it makes you really question. um it makes you really question, okay, like, did this really happen or not? um and it's and it can be and again, this is very, 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 very confusing. Like the first time I saw this, um the first time I saw this movie, I could not follow it at all. I literally had to go back and rewatch it, and I actually had to have someone explain to me, like, what was going on. It was that confusing. However, it's a phenomenal movie. Very, 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 very well done. And this, like the Dark Knight trilogy and Interstellar, it's definitely a masterpiece because it'll keep you guessing the entire time. And even after you watch it, um, and even after you watch it, you'll most probably want to watch it again, um, just to catch up on anything that you might have missed the first time through. But yeah, no, this movie is fantastic. This is phenomenal, and this is definitely one of his best movies. Um, and then my next one, I actually forgot to dig that out, so let me get that out. Um, Here we go. Dunkirk. Now, this movie, um, I remember hearing, I remember when I first heard about this. Um, I remember hearing, um, I remember first hearing when Christopher Nolan was gonna do a war movie, and I got very, 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 very excited because I love war movies, number one. Um, and number two, I knew that Christopher Nolan was going to do something very, very special. Um, and um, this movie, and this is just another movie where the acting, again, is just as top notch. I mean, you have Cillian Murphy, who I'm just such a huge fan of. Um, you have Tom Hardy, Kenneth Branagh, who I also absolutely love. Um, um, you have just an incredible, incredible lineup of actors, and this movie. This movie, unlike a lot of other war movies, this movie doesn't focus on like this movie doesn't focus on like the brutality, violent, tone of war. This movie, this movie is actually PG-13, so um, it's very, like story driven, and um, believe it or not, there's actually not a lot of dialogue um, in this movie. The 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 scenes, like the scenes in the movie, kind of, like speak for themselves, and um, you kind of have to follow. You kind of have to follow, like the scenes and stuff, and like what's going on in the scenes, because there's not a lot of dialogue. Um, in the movie, um, but it's such a phenomenal movie. It's such a phenomenal movie, and it says here 400,000 men couldn't get home, so home came for them. Um, and it's basically it's a race against time, um, with it's a race against time with people, risking their lives, um, to try to save, to try to save these men. Um, I've only seen it a couple of times, so I don't remember too much about the movie, but um, um, but it is definitely one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. It is very, very, very. And like I said before, um, this is another one that Christopher Nolan just really, really just outdid himself in. And this was his first war movie. Like he hadn't done a war movie before then. So this movie, um, this movie, I just, if you haven't seen this, definitely watch it, because it is absolutely phenomenal. And I want to do one honorable mention here, and that is Oppenheimer. Now, the reason why I put this on, you know, um, while this movie is a masterpiece, and it is, um, I mean, Christopher Nolan won, an Oscar for this movie. And Cillian Murphy won Best Actor, and rightly so, because he was freaking incredible in this movie. Um, I put this on the honorable mention because I went into this movie not really knowing anything about Robert Oppenheimer, other than the fact, that he was obviously the one who created the atomic bomb that that ended World War II. Um, so I went into this, literally knowing nothing about, literally knowing nothing about, like his backstory. I didn't know, like the only thing I knew about him was, was the fact that, he created the bomb. Um, this movie, um, this movie really, really focuses, this movie really, really focuses on Robert Oppenheimer's life, like his, like his relationships with, um, like his relationships, like with people, with, um, I would almost call it a, I wouldn't, I wouldn't necessarily say a biography. I wouldn't, I wouldn't necessarily call it a biopic, but it does dive into a lot of um it does dive into a lot of, like his life, and um like it explains like what, like what led up to him creating um the atomic bomb. um and um and literally everything, from the acting to, you know from the acting to the writing to, this, this is a masterpiece. This is, um this is definitely very, very much worth seeing. However, um I would recommend doing at least, just, like a little bit of background research, um before, before watching this, because like Memento, I had a hard time following like what was going on. Um just because, like I went into it, pretty much, knowing nothing about his life prior to, obviously the bomb. And this movie, though it obviously does show him, creating the atomic bomb, and like his reaction to, um and his reaction to, like the devastation and the destruction, that it caused. um this movie focuses um this movie focuses on, a lot more than just that. So, so if you care about, my opinions, or, or whatever, I would very highly recommend that you do, some background research before, before watching it. But anyway, yeah, so those are my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. Let me know what you guys think. What are your favorite Christopher Nolan movies? Like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.